Good evening, everyone, and thank you for rejoining. We were about to start at 8, but thank you so much for your patience and returning to the class at 8:15. And without further ado, we will invite Most Venerable Bulwala Ratanasiri Thero to start the 20th Sutta class with part 2 of the Piyasi Rajanya Sutta, the second part of the Sutta. So over to you, Reverend Sir.
Yes. Good evening. Let's start our Sutta lesson today. Last week, we discussed about part of the Payasi Rajanya Sutta. Today, I am going to explain you where we had stopped. We were discussing about the debate between when Arahant Kumara Kassapa and King Payasi Rajanya. Now, King Payasi Rajanya, he developed his argument on rebirth and karma, depending on his research experiments. So in this sutta, Payasi Rajanya plays the role of a scientist. He developed his argument depending on his discoveries, researches, experiments on rebirth. Then Arahant Kumara Kassapa, he developed his argument on rebirth and karma as a Arahant and who developed the extrasensory perceptions. He looks at rebirth with his extrasensory perceptions, as the Buddha explained. He is Arahant. Kumara Kassapa, Venerable Kumara Kassapa, he was Arahant. So he is speaking in his extrasensory perceptions. Whereas Payasi Rajanya king, he developed his arguments and he gives his explanations depending on his research. So the listeners, you have to decide how reasonable their arguments on rebirth. I think it is very interesting. So King Payasi Rajanya, he continued his argument and he explained his experiments he done. He says, I never believe in rebirth and karma. And he present the reasons, his research, his experiment. He says he has some Sramana Brahmanas who engage in meritorious deeds. They know after their death, they will be born in heavens to sense the luxurious life there in heavens. Payasi Rajan's argument was that if they know after their death they will be born in heaven, why they are not hurried to be born in heaven after committing suicide by falling from the hill or by by poisoning or anything, they can commit suicide. They can commit suicide and soon they will be born in heaven. So why those samanas and brahmanas, they don't do that? That was his argument. Then the Arahant Kumar Kassapa explained because they are not police. They want to render some service to the society, and they want to gather merits or wholesome by engaging in meritorious activities. So they don't like to commit suicide because they are not police. And then he explained about the story of the Polish pregnant woman. He presented the story of a Polish pregnant woman. Now, in this story, Arahant Kumar Kassapa explains, one Brahmin who had two wives. One wife has a child, son, at the age of 16 or so. Then that second wife, she is going to have a child, a pregnant mother. Then what happened? That Brahmin died. Suddenly that Brahmin died. Then the son came to his stepmother and son says, now I am the owner of this property. You don't own anything. And then this stepmother says, if I given born to a daughter, the daughter will marry with you. The daughter will be your wife. If I have a son, then part of the property comes to me. That was his argument. And then the son kept silent and went away. Then again, he came and asked. He said, I want those property and money. You don't own anything. In that way, he argued. Then that Polish stepmother, she want to have the properties. So she went slowly and she got a tool and she cut his stomach. to have children, but she died. In that way, Venerable Kumara Kassapa explained that Polish stepmother, she commit suicide because she wanted to have properties. She was very foolish and she applied the wrong way. But these Sramanas and Brahmanas who engage in meritorious deeds, they are wise and they want to perform so much of wholesome activities, and they want to do some service, the Dhamma service. They want to deliver Dhamma in this society. So they are not hurried to be born in the heavens. They don't want to commit suicide. That was the explanation of Arahant Kumara Kassapa. And then again, this king Payasi Rajanya says, if you explain this argument in this way, but I feel like there is no rebirth. There is no karma and resultant. Payasi Rajanya says. Then Arahant Kumar Kassapa asks whether there is another reason to say so. Then king again is present his argument depending on his discoveries. Then the Payasi Rajanya explain about the accused robber. He gave some punishment to that accused robber. His king men, courtiers, they brings accused robber in the presence of the king. Then the king asked his men to wrap the accused robber with a wet leather, and he asked to apply a layer of clay all over his body. Then he is put in the large cauldron. Then cauldron put on the hearth, and the hearth was fired. Then after some time, when the person died, soon after the dead body was taken out from the cauldron and remove out the leather and the layer of clay. Then Payasi Rajanya king says, I could not see any spirit that emitted from his body. That was his explanation. He did that experiment, but he couldn't see that the spirit had emitted from his body. And that's why he don't believe rebirth and karma. Then Arahant Kumara Kassapa asked the king, do you do you see daydreams when you sleep in daytimes? There are your security officers, they are around you. You see beautiful orchids and beautiful persons, beautiful scenes out of your palace. They are in the environment. Then, Venerable Kumar Kassapa asked, when you saw daydreams out of your body, you see so many beautiful places and so many birds, animals, and plants, flowers, very attractive scenes you see in daydreams. Then Venerable Kumar Kassapa asked whether your security officers had seen the spirit comes, spirit goes out of your body and the spirit returns into your body. When you see daydreams, when your security officers are there around you, looking at you, whether they had seen the spirit going out of your body and returning into your body again. Then the king said no. No one had seen. Then Arahant Kumara Kassapa says, in that way, you can't see spirit. You can't see going and coming of the spirit. So it is the evidence to there is a rebirth, there is karma. But King Payasi Rajan, he did not agree with Arahant Kumar Kassapa. King Payasi Rajan says, I don't believe in rebirth and karma. Then Arahant Kumar Kassapa asked again, if there are any other reason, please tell me and present me. Then he explained his other experiments did by him taking an accused robber. What is the next experiment? He take an accused robber and he asked his men to weigh the burden of that accused robber. Weigh the burden heavy. Using a pair of scale, king asked to weigh the accused robber. Then king asked to weigh the dead body of the accused robber. As soon as he dies, they do something to get his life. Then soon after his dead, they weigh the body again. Then they found uh, dead body is heavier than his dead body is heavier than his living body. So that indicates King Payasirajan says there is no rebirth because dead body is heavier than the live body of the person. So it is evidence that there is no rebirth or karma. Then Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he developed his argument taking an iron ball. Taking an iron ball. Now he says, when you weigh a burning iron globe, and you weigh the cold iron globe, then you can find burning iron globe is lighter than the cold globe. The cold iron globe is heavier than the burning iron globe. That is the Arahant Kumara Kassapa compare when person live, there is 5 aggregates. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. Matter, feeling, perception, mental formation, consciousness. 5 aggregates is there. And there is the body is flexible. Body is not hard. Body is flexible. And then body is active. And in that way, when dead body, there is no feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. But dead body is heavier than the live body. That is how that burning iron globe is lighter than the cold iron globe. That is the argument of Arahant Kumara Kassapa. When person live, he is flexible, his body is not hard. His body is lighter than the dead body. In that way, Arahant Kumara Kassapa developed his argument. But King Payasirajan, he had done so many experiments. Depending on his experiments, Payasirajan says, again, I can't believe in rebirth. I have other reasons for my arguments. And he present another experiments done by him using an accused robber. What is the other experiments that he does? It was he takes again the accused robber and he asked his men to kill that person without making any damage to his bones, veins, flesh, and so on, without making any damage to his part of his body. And he says to kill him without making any damage. So the dead person, free of damages to his skin, flesh, bones, veins, and faculties. So the person is dead, but no any damages to his skin, flesh, bones, veins, and faculties. Then he take this dead body and keeping that dead body in different postures, they check whether there was a spirit that had gone out of his body. By using that dead body, undamaged dead body, they keeping in different postures, upside down, on back in that way, using different postures, standing, sitting, different postures they used, and check whether there is a spirit gone out of his body. But they could not find anything. So King Payasi Rajan says, I don't believe that rebirth again. Then Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he developed his argument using conch shell, conch shell. He asked King Payasirajan, the person who played the conch shell, he keep the conch shells nearby the road, and he goes away and he hide there somewhere there, and some person comes and they ask the conch shell to give musical sound. They turn in here and there, upside down and on back. In that way, they turn in that conch shell in different postures, and they ask these conch shells to give musical sound. But the conch shell can't do it itself. Then the person come and he takes the conch shell and he play that conch shell and gives the musical sound from the conch shells. So to get the musical sound from conch shell, there must be the effort of the person. There must be air in the conch shells. And the conch shell is okay to give musical sounds. With the combination of these three, then the conch shell can give out the musical sound. In that way, if there is those 5 aggregates combined together, the person can move and speak and everything he can do. So, King Arahant Kumar Kassapa says, this is not the evidence that you can say or you can refuse the rebirth and karma. That Arahant Kumar Kassapa bring out the sample of the council to give us the musical sound from the council. The council itself can't do it lonely. There must be the effort of the person, and there must be air in the council. The combination of those everything, it gives musical sound. In that way, Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he developed his argument that there is rebirth and karma. But King Payasirajan, he had done other experiments, and because of that, he says, I can't believe. I can't believe in this argument, or I can't believe in rebirth, and he explained other experiments. His other experiment is he take again the accused robber. Accused robber, he was in the prison. King's men, they brought the accused robber in the presence of the king and asked the king to give punishment. So the king's punishment was that his experiment. So he used this person for his experiment, whether there is rebirth. What is the experiment that he did with that person? He asked his person to remove out this person's skins, flesh, veins, and bones, and so on, one by one, and to look into his body whether there is spirit can be seen. Spirit means Atman. Whether there is spirit can be seen. But King Payasirajan says, spirit could not be seen. After analyzing or anatomy is there, skin remove out like a surgery, like in a surgery, but they couldn't find spirit inside the body. So King Payasirajan asked whether it is the evidence there is no rebirth and karma. Then Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he developed his argument that there is rebirth and karma. So he presented a story about a Jatila person, ascetic, one of the ascetic. There was a Jatila ascetic. He had an adopted child. The Jatila, they sacrificed fire. So they offered, worshipped fire. Their religion is offering fire. They respect fire. They regard fire as God. So they make a bonfire by using some method, and they offered everything to the fire. King Datila, one day he wanted to go somewhere for his purpose. He called in his son and said, don't give any chance to be put out this fire. If it is put out, you have to set the fire. These are the things that you can use to raise the fire. And he went away. That child, he was playing. What happened? That fire put out, no fire was there. Then the child came and he tried to set the fire again, but he couldn't do it because he applied the wrong method. Because of his wrong method, he couldn't set the fire again. In that way, Arahant Kumara Kassapa explained, now you have applied the wrong method to search whether there is a spirit inside the body. You applied the wrong method, like that Jatila son. In that way, Arahant Kumara Kassapa and developed his argument again, there is rebirth. Then king, after listening to Arahant Kumar Kassapa, again King Payasirajan says, depending on his other experiments, I don't believe in rebirth. Then Kumar Kassapa Arahant, he again asked to present the other reasons to his argument. What is his other argument? His other argument is, I can't believe in rebirth because kings, Kosal, and the ministers and other my friends, they know that I don't believe in rebirth. That is my reputation. So if I gave up that reputation, it is not good for my dignity. To protect my dignity, I refused. Refused this rebirth and karma. I want to keep my reputation of refusing rebirth and karma in front of my king and his ministers and prince, because they know that King Payasi Rajanya, he don't believe in rebirth. Because of that, he wants to keep on his argument without changing. Then Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he present a story about the two caravan leaders, how they act. The one caravan leader, when they were traveling across the desert, they find a person having flowers and wet cloth, and he says, there is a pond and there is water in front of you, so you need not to bring water because your bulls and your men, they will be tired. So you need not to bear those burden of water and so on. And there is water enough in front of you. After believing his word, they removed their water and they went on, but they couldn't find water and they destroyed their lives because of that caravan leader was foolish. Then second caravan leader, he is also going. He is also crossing that desert. He met that person again with fitted cloth, and he says, there is water in front of you. Why don't you light your burdens? And that way he explained. But that caravan leader, he was very intelligent. He asked his men to protect water in the block's cart, and they went on and they found the bones of the other persons, the remains of the other merchants, remains of the body there. They were able to save their life because that caravan leader, he was very intelligent, he was not foolish. In that way, Arahant Kumar Kassapa explained the king not to be foolish. Don't depend on the foolish men. In that way, the Kumar Kassapa, Reverend Kumar Kassapa, Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he developed his arguments again, and there is rebirth. Then again, King Payasi Rajan, he don't believe, and he present his other views about that, about his arguments. He says again, because of kings and ministers and princes, I want to uh, I want to be I want to act against them. I want to do keep my reputation against them, and I want to argue with you also, so that I don't want to change my reputation. I don't believe uh, rebirth again. Then I want to hold on to my views on rebirth and come on behalf of my king, ministers and friends. Because there are so many persons, they believe in me that there is no rebirth. Because of me, they believe there is no rebirth. That's why I want to keep this idea, views, refusing rebirth. Then Arahant Kumar Kashyapa, he take an example. There is a person, he find some dried sweet. He thinks this sweet is good for my pigs. I can feed with this sweet. And he collect all those sweet, dried sweet in a basket, and he keeps on his head, and he is going now home to feed his pigs. While he is on his way, it begins to rain. Then what happens? The sweets spread all over his body. The person who looks at them says, why you are foolish to carry those sweet? Now they are flowing and spreading, applying everywhere on your body. Why don't you leave this sweet? Then that person says, I am not the police, you are police. I can feed this. I can feed my pigs with this seed. That's what that person says. In that way, it's like the foolish person who carried the basket of dried sweet for his pigs. Now, you are like that person, the foolish person who carried the basket of dried sweet. You bear this dogma, refusing rebirth because of that foolish person. In that way, Arahant Kumar Kashyapa explained his argument that there is rebirth. But again, Arahant King Paya Sirajan, again he says, I want to continue my argument against you, and the kings and princes and ministers, they believe in me, and they believe that I am intelligent because I have formed arguments refusing rebirth. Because of that, I don't like to give up this my dogma or my idea, refusing rebirth. Then again, Arhan Kumar Kassapa, he explained about the poison person. And now he explained about the two persons who engage in gambling. So, one person, you seem like the poison person engaged in gambling. This story is a long story. Now this two person they engage in gambling. Somehow there is an intelligent one. He poisoned that other person and he defeat. That's why the Arhant Kumar Kassapa says, you seem like the poison person engaging in gambling. Now you don't want to give up your wrong views because of that person. Like it is like that you are like the poison person engaged in the gambling. Because you are poisoned by their wrong views. Because of the others' wrong views, you are poisoned. You are poisoned by wrong views from others. In that way, Arhant Kumar Kassapa developed his argument again. There is rebirth. Then again, Arahant, King Payasirajanya, he says again, because of that persons, because of king and ministers and prince, I don't like to give up my dogma, my views on rebirth, refusing rebirth. Then again, Arahant Kumar Kassapa, he developed his arguments as describing about the two persons. Describing about the two persons. Now there are two men. They decided to go to the abandoned villages. Abandoned villages, and if there are some valuable things, we can bring them our home. They discussed. They came to know that some people had left the villages because of some reasons, leaving their precious goods, their property and everything, leaving. They abandoned the villages. These two men came to know that, and they went there. First village, they find some strings. It is used for weave cloth. They found so much of strings there. So they both collected then, and they put them on their heads and they went to the other village. Then there they find some unvaluable cloth there. So one person asked, shall we remove this string and we collect these clothes and bring our homes? And the other person says, I don't like to leave this string because I have taken this burden in a long distance, so I can't leave this bundle of string. I don't like it. But other person, he left those bundle of string, burden of strings, and he collect that cloth, and they went again. They In that way, they goes to the several villages and they found iron, silver, gold, like precious metals there. Then the first person asked, why don't you remove this burden, the valueless things, and why don't you get those precious things? But that person says, I don't like to remove this, my first burden. Then the second person, then he collect, ultimately he collect golden, much of golden, gold, silver. He made the burden of silver and gold, and they returned their village, their home. One person brought a bundle of gold. Other person brought valueless bundle of string. Then the policeman, he was accused or blamed by his wife and sons because he came with the burden of valueless material, refusing precious metal like iron, black lead, white lead, copper, silver, and gold. That other person, he was praised by his wife and men because he brought precious metal like gold. In that way, Arahant Kumara Kassapa explained, you are like that the second person who brought valueless burden home. In that way, Arahant Kumara Kassapa developed his argument that there is rebirth. Then, at last, after this explanation, King Payasi Rajan, he was very happy and he says, I can understand now I am very happy. You explain me the Dhamma like a person, like a person that he doesn't know his way to go. And you lighted a lamp to remove out the darkness. In that way, King Payasirajanya, he praised Arahant Kumar Kassapa and said, because of your first explanation, his first argument was, I don't believe in rebirth, karma and vipaka. Then Arahant Kumara Kassapa explained, if there is God, God sun and God moon, they live in the heaven, in the other world. So it is it not the evidence to rebirth? Arahant Kumara Kassapa asked in his first argument. Then King says, I understood from the first argument, but I put forward those arguments because I wanted to know more about this rebirth and karma. I took interest to have your knowledge about this rebirth and karma. That's why I developed so much of arguments on this dogma or on this rebirth and karma. And then King Payasirajanya says, I will be the upasaka, or that means I expect the triple genes, Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Take me as your upasaka. I would like to follow the Buddha's way, and he accept the rebirth and karma, and he engaged in donations also, and he was then born in heavens also. But there is another explanation about the donation, about his servant and himself. So I have no time to explain it. Anyway, King Payasirajanya accept that there is rebirth and karma, and he took interest to follow the Buddha's way. Now let me stop my Sutta lesson today. Thank you very much for your kind cooperations. Blessing of the triple gems be showered upon you.
Much merit to you, Reverend Sir, and thank you very much for another interesting Sutta session. It was quite interesting about the hot iron ball simile, where I actually asked my physics professor if that was so, and he said yes, by a few parts per million. So it's quite interesting that in Buddha's time, they knew of such things. I ask our dear Dhamma listeners, if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask them. You can unmute your microphone and ask your question, or you can type it into the chat and I will read it out on your behalf. Do we have any questions? Reverend Sir, you have some gratitude from our Dhamma listeners. I don't think we have any questions, but if you do have any questions, you are welcome to send those questions to us. You can scan the QR code that appears on the screen, or you can just use the Google form that is shared in our social media groups, and we will make sure that your answer is sent to you. We may discuss the answer in a Sutta class, or we may send the answer to you. So we will wrap up today's 20th Sutta class, and it is quite a lovely thing to say that we have concluded 20 Sutta lessons so far. We will meet again next Friday, same time. Until then, stay safe, stay well, and have a great week ahead. I will end the session now, Reverend Sir.
Okay, it's all right now.
All right.